Pate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Shanvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantosti Abhadrani Vidunoti Saraswatam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 10, Dhruva Maharaj's fight with the Yakshas. And today we'll be covering text 1 and 2. Maitreya Uvacha. Prabhu, just 1 second. I'm just going to read from my screen. Prajapate Duhitaram Sisu Maria Vai Dhruva Upayema Brahmanama Tatsatau Kalpavatsarau. Synonym. Maitreya Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya continued. Prajapate, of the Prajapati, Duhitaram, daughter, Susamarasya of Shishumar, by certainly Dhruva Maharaj, Upayame, married, Brahmin, Brahmi, Nama, named, Tatsatau, her sons, Kalpa, Vatsarau, Vatsara. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sage Maitreya said, My dear Vidura, thereafter Dhruva Maharaj married the daughter of Prajapati Shishumar, whose name was Brahmi, and 2 sons named Kalpa and Vatsara were born of her. Purport. It appears that Dhruva Maharaj married after being installed on the throne of his father and after the departure of his father to the forest for self-realization. It is very important to note that in this connection, that since Maharaj Uttanapad was greatly affectionate towards his son, and since it is the duty of a father to get his sons and daughters married as quickly as possible, why did he get his son married before he left home? Why did he not get his son married before he left home? The answer is that Maharaj Uttanapad was a Rajarishi, saintly king. Although he was busy in his political affairs and duties of government management, he was very anxious for self-realization. Therefore, as soon as his son Dhruva Maharaj was quite worthy to take charge of the government, he took this opportunity to leave home, just like his son, who without fear left home for self-realization even at the age of 5 years. These are rare instances from which we can see that the importance of spiritual realization is above all other important. Maharaj Uttanapad knew very well to get his son Dhruva Maharaj married was not so important that it should take preference to his going away to the forest for self-realization. Text 2. Ilayam api bharyayam vidho putram mahabala putram uktala namanam yoshidratam ajinajat. Synonym. Idiam unto his wife named Ila, Api also, Bharayam unto his wife, Vayu of the demigod Vayu, controller of air, Putrayam unto the daughter, Mahabala, the great powerful Dhruva Maharaj, Putram, son, Utkala, Namanam of the name, Yoshit female, Ratnam jewel, Ajitanath he begot. Translation. The great powerful Dhruva Maharaj had another wife named Ila, who was the daughter of the demigod Vayu. By her he begot a son named Utkal and a very beautiful daughter. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swakpadantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunya. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama. Good morning, dear devotees. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to read from Srimad Bhagavatam on this auspicious Ekadashi day. And please forgive me for any of my own interpretations while speaking on these verses. And these verses are really for my own purification. Thank you. Seeking your blessings too. So this is the like this beginning, the first two verses of chapter 10. And again, there's going to be powerful teachings in this chapter too. And this chapter is relatively smaller chapter. There's only 30 verses in this chapter. So in this first two verses, right, sometimes I'm just amazed at how Srila Prabhupada will write those purports and explanations. Even if when you look at the verse, right, when you look at the verse and you read the translation, you will think, okay, what's there so much to it, you know? But when you read the purport and how Srila Prabhupada puts it into perspective, it just takes it to a whole different level. So that's why when we read Srimad Bhagavatam or any of those books, right, it's so important to read Srila Prabhupada's purports. We cannot just read through the verses and go because there is so much explanation that is given. So just in that first verse, like the two things that stand out, right? The first thing is that something to learn about Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we know that there are the 10 important topics. However, from all of those different pastimes, if we really pay attention, right, there are so many stories that show us how to practice or how to even live our life. So, like, so many examples are given where there may be some mistakes done, but you kind of repent for it. So, here, example, right, in the verse 1, it is said that what happened? So, Maitreya Muni is continuing, right, with the story of Dhruv Maharaj. And in this, he says, my dear Vidura, thereafter, Dhruv Maharaj was married. And then it's also explained to Srila Prabhupada. So in the verse, it only said that, but Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the father went to the forest for spiritual realization, right? It is very clearly given here that Maharaj Uttanapad left to the forest. So we understand, we saw the whole story, how Maharaj Uttanapad acted with Dhruv Maharaj, little Dhruv Maharaj, 5-year-old boy. And he regretted so much of his behavior. When Narada Muni came to visit him, he regretted so much that because of his behavior, he could not even protect that 5-year-old boy. And that's why he had to go to the forest and do everything. And he regretted so much. And now he has come to that realization that I have done everything wrong. And the purpose of my life, the goal of my life is to really seek spiritual realization. So very important lesson from here is that, as I said, the first point, what comes to mind is that from Srimad Bhagavatam stories, we learn a lot of the stories where the personalities, pure devotees also, they commit mistakes. But the important thing is, even if the mistakes are committed, how do they course correct? When they realize that the mistake was done, they course correct, ask for forgiveness, and do the necessary steps that is needed, right, for correction. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is also this, and why does all of this happen? Even why are these mistakes done in the first place? Because of strong attachment, because we are so attached and we want to enjoy. Even I'm speaking about ourselves too, like in our devotional path also, there are so many times we do some of those mistakes. But as I said, when we understand, we have to course correct, and that's why we are also being given the 10 offenses. See, one thing is that we practice bhakti very nicely. The teachings are given to us. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even when we are reading Lord Chaitanya's teachings, very nicely it's given. The formula is given, right? Chant the holy name, read all the scriptures, associate with devotees, live in a dham, and also do deity service. The five potent services are given very nicely to us, and we have incorporated all of these in our practices here. Very straightforward. However, the other side of the coin is that while we do all of these practices, we also have to be very cautious, be very careful about not committing offenses, because that's going to totally wash off everything that we are doing over on this side. So we have to be just very careful. And again, knowingly, unknowingly, things happen. But it is so important that we do that. And from Srimad Bhagavatam, right, there is a story of King Yayati. He was very infatuated. It's so infatuated that when he got the curse that he will get old and he's going to lose all his, energy, power, and everything. Guess what? He was so attached to enjoyment that he shamelessly he's going to his sons and asking for their youth. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a father going to his son and asking that you give me your youth, your age? Why? So because I can enjoy. And then later he regrets. In later on, he regrets, and then he goes back, and then he seeks spiritual realization. We saw Daksha Prajapati's story too, how he treated Lord Shiva, how he treated his own daughter Sati. Everything happened. And later, what happens? When Lord Shiva appears, he completely regrets and he's asking for forgiveness. Similarly, there are so many stories in Srimad Bhagavatam. We also saw even Brahma, how he's running after his own daughter. We saw that, right? It was earlier in Canto 3. But anyway, even with that story too, like you look at these stories and you're like, these are pure devotees and they are doing all of this. So how do we even understand, right? But all of these stories are really for us to understand and also to be able to learn from these examples. There is also an example given of Mohini Murti, right? We know that Lord Shiva, when the churning of the nectar, the ocean happened, Mohini Murti was there to distribute all the amrit, the nectar. And at that time, Lord Shiva gets attracted. And even in front of his disciples, like he's going after Mohini Murti. So these examples, as I said, the infatuation, the attachment, and all of that are given different examples in Srimad Bhagavatam. But ultimately, we see how the devotees are doing coming course correction, realignment, asking for forgiveness, and then go from there. So that's an important lesson for us also in our lives when we are following the practices. Be very careful, even the class when we did the devotee care class. The main important thing, the quality that stood out for the devotees to be caring with each other was sensitivity. And I think right? Whoever is working in the corporate world, there is an other flavor of it, which is like self-awareness. There is so much importance right now given on self-awareness. So just that sensitivity, being very careful and following all the teachings, but also being, as I said, other devotees, when we are handling, it's like handle with care when we are dealing with other devotees. So we have to be just very careful. So that's just one teaching. And then the second one is about, again, the important, significant one is about spiritual realization. Right here, see, the example is given that King Uttanapa did not wait. Like he did not say, oh, let me wait. Let me get Dhruv Maharaj married. Let me wait until he has children. Let me stay here to help with his children and take care of them. Because, nowadays that's what we see, right? Usually that parents come, which is nice for us. Parents come, the grandparents are here, they are helping and everything else. But you can see from Srimad Bhagavatam that after a certain age, when your children are adults and they are able to take their own responsibility, our responsibility is then that we really dedicate our lives for spirituality, to seek self, to seek Krishna, to go forward with really deep attraction, deep understanding. Because if we keep getting attached, if we kept doing this, we are just going to be forever attached here, because always there's going to be more and more, right? Children get married, then they have children. then you take care of those grandchildren, then they have to get married, then they have to get jobs. So this will continue on and on without any end. But at one point, it is important that we say, okay, kind of, creating those boundaries and then saying that here is my time, here is my focus. It's not like I'm not going to help the children or anything like that, but the primary focus should still be Krishna, and also like going forward with the spiritual enhancement, I guess. So that's the thing. And the important point also comes about detached caring, right? So see, this is important, detached caring. So what is that? What is really attachment, and what do we mean by becoming detached? See, detachment is often mistaken to mean that we don't care or we don't feel compassion or anything like that. But that is not detachment. True detachment means that we are not disturbed by external events or material thoughts and emotions. And the reason why we are not disturbed is because our deep connection and attachment to the Lord, and we really understanding that Krishna is Bhoktaram. In the verse we know, right, from 526, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suradam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvam Shantim Rachati. So Krishna is the ultimate benefactor, everything. So if we have to think about like this, right? See, imagine if we are driving somebody else's car and we meet with an accident. What would happen is that we will feel really, really bad that we did that. However, if that was not my car, my pain, my hurt will be slightly different than it was my own car. So, like that, we have to really understand the bigger picture that my family, my children, everybody is actually Krishna's. I have been given the responsibility to care for them. I've been put in this position, but ultimately, they are all Krishna's property. So when we think like that, we understand that I am in this position, but really Krishna is the ultimate proprietor. Everybody belongs to Krishna and they are all Krishna. So that kind of thing also will give us a little bit of detachment, because we understand that we are the instruments, but we are not the owner. We are really not the owner of anything in this world, anything, because all of this attachment comes when we think that we are the proprietor and we are the owner. But as long as we put Krishna in that position as the supreme proprietor, the supreme ultimate benefactor, and everything, controller, it's easy to let go and have that detached mentality. So here too, King Uttanapad, beautifully, he is able to detach and focus towards spiritual realization. So really, in a summary, those are the two things that stood out. When we do any mistakes, first thing, we have to be sensitive in our spiritual life, in all of it, right? We have to be very sensitive. And even if we commit a mistake, really regret that, course correct and ask for forgiveness. And then the second thing is how to have detached caring while we are practicing and living in this spiritual life. With that, I would like to end. Thank you so much again for giving me this opportunity.